Hello again, everybody. And we can say again because if you happen to see our first video, you'll notice that we're sitting in the same two seats, although on different sides of the table as we were last time. But we're excited to tell you a little bit about how we saw God respond to your prayers while we were in Moldova and Ukraine. And before we mention more about that, I do want to give you the disclaimer that we are both jet lagged. How many hours difference, Mark?
7-hour difference.
And they say 1 hour per day, so it should take 7 days. So maybe we're making this video prematurely, but bear with us, and we'll hopefully be articulate enough to so you can understand just the amazing ways we saw God respond to your prayers. But before that, some of them might be wondering, Mark, what happened with the matching fund and how that went.
Well, first of all, I'd like everybody to know that the trip that we took to Moldova and to the Ukraine was actually funded by last year's funding. So that's really a good thing. It's been a blessing to have that funding and be able to use it this year. And then in March we had a matching event happening where a couple has basically donated or the ability to donate and match up to $10,000. And in March, we actually received $10,290. So not only did we get those funds, but we also received the $10,000 matching fund as well, which will set us up for the remainder of the year and maybe beyond. So that was awesome, and we feel so blessed by everybody's contributions in the way that these funds are being used.
We do thank you, those of you who are able to give above and beyond what you already give to your churches and the other ministries and missionaries you're committed to. We really appreciate that. And in a way, we were able to get 2 trips, you could say, out of 1 trip's worth of funding, because we went over on 1 plane ticket and we went to 2 different countries, 2 different groups of dear Christian leaders who are sharing the gospel and reaching their cultures over there. So thank you for that. We did want to tell you some specific ways that we saw God respond to your prayers, and we're going to base it off of the prayer guide we had put on the website. And we're just going to go down and mention a few ways, but please approach us in the future and let us know what specific ways you were praying and how we saw God respond to your prayers. We would be honored to do that. We're just going to abbreviate a few.
Right.
The first way we asked you guys to pray was for our spiritual strength, our stamina, and our sleep. Yes, all 3 began with the letter S. And I would say that that was the best trip I've ever had of sleep. I don't know about you, but you told me every morning that you were sleeping pretty well, right?
Yes. We certainly felt like not only that, but we had safe travels. You've been praying for us on that. And we got there with no eventful issues at all. We arrived there safe and we came home safe. Our schedule was maintained. We got there and everything just went very smoothly. We were able to get a lot of sleep, at least enough to keep us moving. And we
didn't get sick.
Yeah, there was no colds or any ailments at all. You know, Steve had stamina and working with the various teams, and we went through a number. Well, we said we had three legs of our trip. Each leg of the trip, we experienced your prayers by allowing us to sleep and having the energy to be able to work with the teams that we met with, and it was just undeniably a spiritual thing that we were able to do that, even though we are 7 hours difference in our sleep. So thank you very much for your prayers.
And for the first time ever, Mark and I flew on Turkish Airlines, and we were able to get there and back. So that's a sign of God's intervention. Some of you might have had other experiences in the past with Turkish Airlines. We also ask you to pray that we'd have clear communication as both Mark and I either were leading or expressing or sharing. And even though I was facilitating these sessions at these two different spiritual refreshment retreats in two different countries, Mark was highly participating in them, both during the sessions and in conversations that followed. So we really experienced some wonderful translators, not just ones that were good at translating, but they had the heart, the pastoral heart to express in their words what we were trying to express. So we really appreciate you doing that. And I just want to ask Mark a question. Mark, when you think back to the first third of our trip, when we were coming alongside various missionaries in Moldova, almost all of them English speaking, but we needed some translation done with the folks in Moldova that we were aiming to serve and encourage. When you think about that, just briefly describe one scenario that we just sensed that we were right where God wanted us to be, and it was good timing, and He wanted us to be an encouragement to the person we were talking to.
Well, uniquely created by God. The very first day we were there, we were at a men's breakfast meeting where they had record number of men show up, 26 or 27 men. And from that, we met a number of people that we had follow-on conversations with that could very well impact our support and ministry in Moldova in the future. There happened to be gentlemen, 3 or 4 gentlemen from Georgia that were there to help build one of the buildings that they've been working on.
Church building.
Yep. And we met a gentleman out of England that has been working in Moldova for 15 years, I believe, and he's really trying to help develop businesses there for people to be able to make a living and to have a life there in Moldova. And I think we'll be working with him in the future to, see if there's things that we can do to help his ministry along as well. But the entire time, that was just one example, the entire time, the flight there and back, we've been meeting people and alignments that you would never think.
Let's put it this way: God's fingerprints were all over it.
Yeah,
absolutely. So thank you for praying that way. And you might be aware that Mark and I went to Moldova last May, but we did not go to Ukraine. Mm-hmm. So the last portion of our trip, the last third, was in Ukraine, and so it was a spiritual refreshment retreat designed to encourage this team of folks that have a ministry to orphans, at-risk teens, and autistic children. And what a dynamite group of people they were. It was so encouraging to come alongside them. And then back to Moldova, what Mark was referring to, the gentleman from England, we have, because we're behind the scenes, we connect people. Mark helped connect the man in England with a young man who grew up as an orphan in an orphanage, and has started his own leatherworking business, and getting those men connected, because now this former orphan who started a business in Moldova, which is extremely rare, and he's also a Christ-following young man, he is now ministering to the social orphans in his neighborhood. He and his wife are having them over for dinner. It's remarkable. And again, we could tell you story after story after story, and if you approach us, we'd be glad to tell you more. But thank you for your prayers. We really appreciate that. And please go from here, if you haven't already, to the praying page on the website, where you can click on the words. Let me make sure what they say. They say, I'm looking at the website right now, they say Moldova and Ukraine is where you got the first prayer guide, but right beneath it you can click on Kenya and Ethiopia, and you can print out my upcoming trip. Mark isn't able to go this time. I wish he were, but I'm going to be going over, and there's going to be 2 different people joining me during this 3-week trip. It's a long trip. So you can read about that on the website by printing out the prayer guide, and I would really value your prayers. And about a month from now, I will try to send out a bit of an update video so that you can get a sense of how God responded to your prayers then. So thank you again for your prayer, for your financial support, those of you who were able to. And you weren't just helping us do what God had us doing. You were actively involved
Yes.
in what we saw happening before our eyes. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very, very much.